Good evening, my fellow Riz Elite members. This is Chris with Riz International, and this is your weekly market recap. As I was talking with everybody who got here a little bit earlier, Riz is taking the night off. He's having some time with his friends, his family. Of course, we support him in that. It's always important to remember to keep your work-life balance in check. Make sure that you are spending time with your friends and family over the weekends. It's a time for you to recharge, rejuvenate, and come back fresh on Monday. And, we definitely had an interesting end of the week with the S&P 500. Now, it looks like things might be starting to curl over. And, the thing is, we've seen this before, right? Let me just pull it back here and kind of give you guys the 50,000 foot view here on the S&P 500. I mean, it has been nothing but up for, the past year and a half, basically. And sure, we have these little rollovers here. We have stuff like this, we have this, and then it hits support and it gets bought right back up. We even had a little bit of a mini pullback here earlier in August and was just bought back up, hit new all-time highs. We did hit a new all-time high earlier in the week. Actually, I believe it was the end of last week. New all-time high is 45.85 on the S&P 500. Though once we hit that, we did have a bit of hesitation, and then we started to see the sell-off. Now, Riz made a couple of points that he wanted me to discuss tonight, and that is kind of the support levels that he's seeing on the S&P 500 right now. So he posted this on the 8th, so a couple days ago. Basically he's seeing support right around 44.80, which the keen-eyed observer will note that we are currently below. The next one is going to be looking like 44.20. So we're obviously not quite there yet. And then after that, we're looking at 43.80 as our support levels on the S&P 500. Now, we are below that first support level of 44.80 right now. 44.20 is the next stop, and we'll have to see what happens. And there are a couple potential, theories on what may happen, a couple potential scenarios on what may happen with the S&P 500 come Monday. Now, if the market continues to sell off, we'll have to see if it makes a test of that 44.20 area and see if that support holds or not. If it doesn't, then of course we're looking at 43.80 as our next stop. That being said, you'll note that those would be right here, below my support line here that has been holding very, very strong for quite some time. So it will be interesting to see if that rollover continues. Now, if it doesn't, what we'll see more than likely is we will see a lot of buying pressure and a move towards the upside. Now, I know we have a lot of new members here. I want to welcome each and every one of you. Thanks for being part of Riz Elite. And if you're here on the live webinar, thanks for coming as well. I really appreciate it. We got great attendance tonight. We got some great people here, and I'm really excited. Very happy for all of our new members, and I hope you are learning something, and I hope you'll learn something from this. But this is one of the main reasons you'll note that Riz has been very cautious lately, especially taking long trades where he actually buys the stock. We haven't had too many of them. Actually, only one in the last few days, and Riz has actually already closed that for profit. It wasn't too big. It was MA. We'll take a look at it here in a minute. But we have been incredibly careful as far as what positions we're taking, because it's really difficult, guys, when the market is just kind of basically just falling upwards. It's like this slow general grind towards the upside. It's really difficult to trade in those markets because it's like everybody's like, okay, we keep hitting new all-time high after new all-time high. Eventually the market has to pull back, and that would be a natural, normal, and healthy thing for it to do. But yet it keeps dribbling towards the upside, and we have a hard time trading in that type of environment. So that's why you've been seeing a lot less trades recently. But you got to understand, just because you're not taking trades does not mean that you are not in the market. Always remember, cash is a position, and sometimes being in cash, having that capital ready to, really jump on opportunities that come at us when the time is right, when we do have that correction, you'll be glad that you have a nice cash supply ready to go to start taking advantage of all of those, stocks you can get into for a discounted price compared to where they are right now. A lot of stocks right now are extended. Things look overbought, and the market just kind of keeps churning along. But it is looking like we may start seeing a rollover here. We'll have to keep an eye on it on Monday. Absolutely, cash is definitely the best hedge. Thank you for that, Jeremiah. It is so true, guys. Listen, again, I understand we've got a lot of new members, and it has been kind of quiet in terms of trades in Riz Elite recently. And I just kind of wanted to talk about that because sometimes, guys, the right trade is no trade. Sometimes you need to be patient. You need to wait because remember the old axiom, guys: buy low, sell high. Well, when you just keep hitting all-time high after all-time high on the S&P 500, it's kind of hard to buy low because everything is so flipping high. We have to wait for that pullback. We have to wait for that correction. And I can promise you, once we get it, Riz is ready to go. I can promise you that much. Riz is ready to go. He's got cash ready, and I hope you guys do too, because there will be alerts. I can promise you that much. Let's go ahead and take a look here at the breakdown for the S&P 500. Fairly similar to where we were a couple weeks ago. I know it's been 2 weeks since we've had a webinar because of the short week last week with Labor Day here in the United States. But real estate still, the top dog, still pushing up, though a bit of a rollover here following the market. You'll notice that everything is moving towards the downside as the market sells off for the most part. Financials kind of making a bit of a pullback here. Energy, kind of had this push back upwards and has been sitting basically trading sideways. Same can be said for tech. Definitely a bit of a push here right around the middle of August, and that's kind of been it. S&P 500 currently up over 20% on the year, 20.78 to be specific. We represent that here with the SPY. Those that are underperforming and have been underperforming, for quite some time is healthcare and utilities. That being said, utilities being very strong right now, really making a nice move. And after that push towards the upside, a bit of a consolidation period is not unexpected. Some of that energy is due to oil. So if you were here before we open things up, sorry guys that you missed this trade for all of our new members, but yeah, we got in on this recovery on oil, and oh my gosh, was it a beautiful, beautiful trade that you were in and out of within a couple of days. These are the types of trades that we take here in Elite. And oil, after making this recovery, really is just traded sideways, not much going on. I think we're kind of just in a wait and see mode, especially when it comes to coronavirus, when it comes to travel and things like that. It is a dicey situation. And right now, with Delta doing its thing, it is, and I'm talking about the Delta variant, not the airline, it is one of those things that we kind of have to keep an eye on and be patient with, because oil is so heavily connected to travel and airline travel specifically, that it is a big thing. And if, they start announcing more lockdowns or restrictions or things like that, we may see a bit of a slip in oil. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. But right now, really just after this sell-off here, we have bounced back a bit and we're recovering right under the 50 moving average currently here, which is represented by the blue line that you can see on your screen. So that one is, kind of just following, resistance here. We'll have to see if it can bust out or we just continue to trade sideways. Gold, after this big sell-off, has rebounded nicely. A bit of a selling day here on the 7th of September, right before Labor Day. But, after that, looking pretty good. Excuse me, that would be right after Labor Day, my mistake. Definitely, a bit of a consolidation. So a small sell-off here in gold over the last couple of days, and then basically a consolidation right now under the moving averages, both the 50 and the 200. Not much going on with gold. It doesn't seem to be behaving like it has in the past, where you can actually use gold as a hedge. Really, right now, gold has kind of been trading with the market. And so we're just being really patient. We don't have any positions in gold, nor do we recommend taking one at this time. Especially if you're looking to buy actual physical gold, really overvalued in our opinion at this moment. Let's go ahead and take a look at cryptocurrency, because there's been some movement in Bitcoin. So over the last, month and a half, this support line has been very, very solid. But, we seem to have busted through here on the 27th of August, 26th actually. And, we kind of traded sideways. And then, guys, this is about as beautiful as a drawing of when support becomes resistance that I could possibly think of. As you can see here, after we pushed down below this support line here, it started acting as resistance. And as we were making our move up, it kept hitting it and hitting it and hitting it, and it couldn't really bust over it. And then look what happens. Huge sell-off here on the 7th. So, same day that gold was coming down, and has been selling ever since. So definitely quite the pullback on Bitcoin here. Again, we don't have a position in Bitcoin, but we do know that a lot of our members are interested in it. And so that's why we do talk about it here on the webinar. So I just wanted to bring it up and kind of show you this, because this is about as beautiful example of, technical analysis actually paying off that I could possibly think of. And really, really beautiful, point where support becomes resistance here on Bitcoin. I did mention that I wanted to take a look at MA real quick, so let's just go ahead and pull that up. So MasterCard, I'm sure that many of you may have one of those in your wallet. Let me go ahead and pull up that trade real quick. Will just take me a second. Okay, in on the 8th at 347. So really looking to capitalize on this huge sell-off here, and got in at 347, and it looks like that was closer towards the end of the day, if I'm reading that correctly. Yeah, it looks like a little bit closer to the end of the day. And Riz was able to get out of this one a few days later, said that, took a little bit of profit, wasn't a huge win or anything like that. Let me pull that up. Yes, was out yesterday, so out on Friday on this big sell-off. And looks like that was about as good a time to get out as any, because MasterCard really pushed back down here. And, this support line seems to be important at this point on MasterCard. But nice little, rebound bounce play here that we were able to get in on and capitalize as best as we possibly could. Now, I want to go ahead and open up the floor to questions. I know that Riz isn't here, and I know that's always fun when he's here. I'm hoping he'll be back next week, but I'll be more than happy to take your questions, take a look at anything that you guys have in mind. But I wanted to reiterate again right now, especially for our new members, I get it. You came here, you want to see trades, you want to see action, but this is probably the most important lesson you will ever learn as a trader, is that sometimes the right trade is no trade. And that's really hard to stomach. Listen, I get it. If you're not buying and selling, you don't feel like you're in the market, but it's simply not true. Sometimes being patient, waiting for that right time to go ahead and jump on something, when you get a rebound like this on MasterCard, you're able to get out for a little profit, always nice. But, it's one of those things with the market as it continues to trickle up, and we may be seeing this downturn here. If we do actually see this downturn, trust me, there will be plenty of trades for you to take. I can promise you that much. But right now we're being very patient, very cautious, because the last thing you want to do, like some people did on Bitcoin who got in here around the 60 mark, and they're like, guys, it's never going down, guys. We're just going to the moon, Bitcoin to 250K. Yeah, it didn't quite happen that way. And the last thing we want, guys, if we're talking about securities, meaning stocks and ETFs, things like that, the last thing we want to do is get in here at like 64,000 like you could on Bitcoin, and then be stuck holding the bag for, almost a half a year here on Bitcoin. This high was hit on the 14th, and Bitcoin has not seen 64 and basically 64,900, 64,900 or almost 65,000 on Bitcoin ever since. So a lot of people who are buying in here saying, yeah, it's never going down, we're going to win, it's going to be, excuse me, going to be a huge windfall for me, are sitting there kind of scratching their head going, what's going on here? How are we going to be able to pull this out? Excuse me, guys, I inhaled something there. I do apologize for that. And so what I'm trying to say, guys, the last thing we want to do is buy in here, when the market is at all-time highs, pushing, looks like it's pushing higher, and then it rolls over and we're stuck holding the bag. That's the last thing we want. We don't want you guys stuck in these positions ad infinitum. And so that's why we're being incredibly cautious right now with our long plays. Usually we do have some securities that we're looking at that we can give you an idea on something to look at. Riz specifically said there's nothing that he is watching right now as far as something to go ahead and take long. We are using short puts to, basically make money in this market. If you haven't taken the options masterclass, highly recommend it. Riz explains how you actually take a short put and why he uses that method. He basically prints money for free. It's pretty cool, not going to lie. It is something that I do recommend you take the options masterclass for, though, because it is not the simplest thing to do, but can be incredibly, incredibly profitable for you if you learn how to do it early on. Will be interesting. Okay, so Jeremiah says will be interesting to see too if BTD happens or more selling. I'm assuming you mean BTC, Jeremiah. So Bitcoin. Unless I'm wrong on that, please correct me. But yeah, will be interesting to see. Now, remember, guys, Bitcoin is traded 24/7, 365. So you'll notice the price of Bitcoin moving here. Oh, buy the dip. Gotcha. Yes. So that is an age-old strategy. When the market dips, people say go ahead and buy in on it. And then capitalize on the rebound. So yeah, it will be interesting to see if people are going to use that strategy, and that has worked in the past. And it's one of those things that it works until it doesn't. And I know that sounds somewhat contrarian, but it's the truth, guys. It will work until it stops working, at which point you get stuck holding the bag because perhaps you buy too early in the dip, that sort of thing. But yes, buy the dip, of course, a classic axiom of trading, and something that can definitely work for you. If you're getting in, on something like this, around 4,100 and riding it up a little higher, whatever security it is that you're looking at that is dipping during that time, can definitely be a way to do it. And that is obviously what we're looking to do. If the market continues to slide, we'll see where it ends up. We do have our support and resistance levels that we are keeping an eye on. But yeah, if we see a lot of buying here on Monday, that will be interesting, to see how that pans out in the morning, especially in those first, 2 hours of the market when it's the most volatile. And then, of course, a power hour at the end of the day. But definitely, of course, a very interesting move here on the S&P 500. Very bearish. We're still in the channel. So, that being said, we can sell off and things like that as much as they want inside the channel, but it'll be interesting to see if it breaches the channel. And if it does, can it hold below it? Because we've done it before. If we look back here, looks like in March earlier this year, we busted below my channel, actually closed below the channel. And lots of people are like, oh, it's going to go, it's going to sell, it's going to be, down, down, down. And not so much. Since this low here, let's go ahead and take a look at how much it's gone up. All right, so right about there. We'll even include the other day's close. So yeah, up 20% since that dip. So buy the dip, definitely a fair, strategy to use. Does it always work? No, but it definitely can work. Okay, I've got a question on the ticker here. Chris says, Chris, thoughts on PATH, P-A-T-H, technical for taking a long position? Let's take a look. Okay, so we've got a new IPO. Looks like we had decent earnings. Or maybe not. Maybe we got crushed. Yeah, it looks like earnings were pretty decent, but it absolutely got hammered. So this is about as good a buy the dip play. Now, of course, there is hardly any data for me here. We've only IPO'd since April, so not even a full year's worth of data yet. Does look like, this 54, 53, 60 area, somewhere in there, seems to be acting as some sort of support. I would say if this continues to push towards the upside, you could definitely take a look at it. But that being said, it is an IPO and there's not too much data for me to look at. Let's throw a few more. Let's take a look here. Okay, so that definitely seems significant. This one's a little questionable, that at 56.90 area. But it definitely, if we continue to push towards the the upside, you could definitely consider taking it long. Again, it is a recent IPO. Their earnings weren't that great. They're still not making money. They're still, losing money, but they're losing much less money than they thought that they were. And that's obviously a good thing. It's a good thing we're not losing as much as we thought we were losing. So I'm sure you can understand the irony in that concept. But yeah, guys, a lot of companies on the S&P 500 actually don't make money. It's kind of comical, actually, when you start looking at it and you get into the fundamental analysis part of stock trading. But from a technical standpoint, it doesn't look terrible. I want to see more of an up move on Monday if we're going to do it. And then, of course, we need to keep an eye on this 57 area, basically 56.90 is close enough to 57. So definitely keep an eye on that. We're sitting right at 55.34 right now. Again, recent IPO, there's really not much I can say about this. I really can't dig too deep into it because there simply isn't enough data. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So they actually made money, if I'm reading that right. Because as reported was 1 penny per share. Solid earnings right there, man. Got to get them pennies in. Yeah, I mean, volume seems to be tailing off, but if we continue to push towards the upside, even on lower volume, I think it should be a good indication that it wants to go. We'll have to keep an eye on it. Again, not something that I'm too familiar with, but definitely could be something for you. Yeah, absolutely. Not a problem. You guys have anything else you want me to take a look at? I'll give you a second to type. Now, if you're on mobile, you'll need to use the menu option to switch to the camera, or not the camera, the chat box. There is an option. It's like the 3 bars. I think it's at the top right or the top left, and then you can switch to the chat. You go ahead and post in chat. Now, if you're on mobile, you can't look at both the chart and the chat at the same time. So just be aware of that. I see a decent amount of you are on mobile. I want to make sure you knew how to send me a comment so that I could take a look at something that you guys want me to take a look at. I see several people typing now, so obviously I have encouraged you to learn how to do it. AMC for fun, of course. Yes. Let's take a look at some meme bullshit, shall we? Okay. So, of course, AMC got picked up on Wall Street Bets, a subreddit, that basically was able to create a short squeeze on GameStop was the most famous one here, where they got several hedge funds basically to dump their shares on this squeeze, and they made a lot of money off of it. I actually know somebody who's still holding GameStop. I don't recall what his average is, but yeah, he may be holding for a while. But back to AMC. AMC was the second one that they hit. A nice bounce here off of the 90 moving average and pushing over the 50 at this point. Volume isn't too spectacular, but it is sitting right at the average. So it looks like we're turning in about 90 million shares per day. So churning that one for sure. Am I buying it? No. Not at these levels, especially with the fact that, guys, I'm sorry, they're losing money. That's just all there is to it. The company is hemorrhaging money at this point. So, and especially with Delta running around, it's questionable whether they will have lockdowns or more restrictions, especially on things like public gatherings, like going to movies and things like that. I'm not buying it on this. I'm sorry, it's not worth $50 a share. It really isn't. Especially with the earnings that they have, it really should be a lot lower. And, hype and excitement are keeping this up. I would be very careful if I took it long. Not something I would jump in on. Am I able to look at SU on the TSX? I should. Help if I do it right. Suncor Energy. All right. Do I think it's a good, okay, for a short swing trade? I'm going to assume you mean to the long side and not actually to the short side. Now, it looks like we've played with this one before, as I have some drawings on here, but that channel seems to be out the water right now. I'm going to make a jump here and assume that Suncor is an alternative energy, play here. Definitely some merit to it. That being said, let's take a look here, because SU has been, higher before quite a bit in the past and has been beaten down, though was making a nice recovery until we had this sell-off here. Let's get zoomed back in so we can take a closer look at it. I do agree with you. It is taking some time for consolidation. Be interesting to see how it goes, but just remember you do probably have something here around 22. So make sure you scale accordingly on this one if you are going to take it long. I don't love it as a long play. Excuse me. So yeah, I don't necessarily love it as a long play, especially here. That being said, the 200 simple moving average is moving up, while the 50 and the 90 are kind of trending down. So that tells me over the past year it has been pushing up, which of course we know that it has from this nice move here. It'll need to bust over that 200 to actually make a really solid move. That being said, you don't necessarily want to wait because that 200 is sitting at 25 and change, and we're sitting at 23 right now. So obviously, if you want to jump in on this, it's probably getting close to the time. But that being said, there's no guarantee that it continues to push up towards the north on this one. You could see more of a sell-off. One of the things that I think is very tricky is knowing the right time to get in. And of course, no one knows when that is. No one knows exactly when it's going to hit the bottom or exactly where the top is. Every once in a blue moon, you'll top tick or bottom tick a stock when you put your orders in and you hit it, and then it goes the opposite direction, and you're just like, you're pumping your fist going, yeah, I freaking nailed it, bro. But it usually doesn't happen. This is a more tricky entry, in my opinion, because I still see it as a downtrend. And for me personally, I don't like buying in on a full-on downtrend, which is what we're in right now after we busted out of that channel. So it's a tricky entry. Could it be the right one? Absolutely. It definitely could be the right entry here. The question is your time frame. I do think that alternative energy sources are going to become more and more, kind of a hot area in the market here. It could be the next weed stock, but this is a very tricky entry because there's a lot of potential downside. But there's a decent amount of upside as well, too. So it really just comes down to your risk management. So just be careful on your share sizing on this one if you do decide to take it and, kind of go from there. All right. Anthony says IDXX is one I've been watching, but the market may not be right for this type of long trade. Let's take a look at it. IDEX Laboratories. Holy moly. Is this a pharma company? I would guess. With those earnings, holy cow. And the word laboratories in it. Awesome, Yas. I'm glad that you were thinking kind of the same thing. Yeah, I think it could work, but there's a lot of downside to it still. Now, for this one, this has already made the move. I'll be honest with you. This has made the move, and right now, I'm going to blow your mind. Technically in a downtrend. Okay, so this is one of those tricky things where it's like, I understand this is a short-term downtrend, right? This is only coming from, the beginning of August, and it looks like the 50 is holding very strong. Looks like it's just bouncing off there multiple times and really hanging tough, kind of in a consolidation phase. Really, we're kind of bouncing between the 670 and, kind of this area here, 660. So I don't know how big your account is, Anthony, and please don't say in the chat. But I'm assuming, since you've been watching this, that you have enough money to, invest in it. This is even more tricky than SU on the TSX exchange before, because, you can look at this and say, oh, Chris, obviously, yeah, you're right, it's a downtrend. But you can also look at this and, it's still an uptrend. And yes, Riz is going to love this. I'm drawing triangles on the webinar. It's spectacular. Don't put a whole lot of faith, guys, into candle chart patterns. I know a lot of people their jaws are going to hit the floor, and I'm going to get rage comments on YouTube for this. But yeah, patterns like this, don't put a whole lot of faith behind it. All right. You can be like, oh, Chris, obviously it's a bull flag because it's got, it's got like this here, and that's the flagpole, and and we've got this here, and these different quadrants are going to do these different things, and remember this stuff up here, and then all of this and that, plus these 5 different variables and Greek symbols, and yeah, it's going to go this way. It doesn't work that way, guys. I'm just going to be straight with you on this, and let me remove that. There we go. So that was my bit of humor for chart patterns, because some people just put so much garbage on their on their charts they can't even see where the price is going. What I'm trying to say is this is a very tricky entry on IDXX, and I can understand why you've been watching it and why it may not be the right time, because you've had this move here from 500 to 700. It's a $200 move, and this thing could not be stopped during that time, and now we're consolidating. Question is does it continue to consolidate and break towards the upside, or does it just get broken and then roll over? Nobody knows the answer to that. And me personally, I wouldn't be willing to throw it on a high dollar stock like this, because it's going to move. It's going to have, high variability intraday. You're going to see some massive swings. So you need to be careful with this one on your share sizing, to make sure that you don't get stopped out prematurely, because it moved a little bit one day and it went past your stop and you're just freaking out. But the thing is, with a high dollar stock like this, it's going to move. And so you have to be prepared for that. And the way you combat that is with share size. You don't go in, 100 shares on this, because that would be $60,000. And, just hope for the best. With something like this, with the share position size that big, you need to be ready to weather the storm. And that means the intraday variability, which this thing will have for the most part. So, yeah, Anthony, I have to agree with you. I'm not sure if this is the right time or the right place for it. Honestly, I'd like a pullback to the 90. That would be much more reasonable, in my opinion, as far as, a technical area to keep an eye on, around the 90 simple or the 100 exponential. Definitely, both of those will be very close to each other, by the way. That would be a more reasonable pullback. But you could be like, well, it could just rebound from here. And you are 100% right. It could. But buying it here is incredibly risky, because of the potential for a pullback. If the market continues to sell on Monday, I suspect this will probably sell as well. I could be wrong, and it could go up here to 750 or something like that. But yeah, I don't know if this is really the right time for a long on IDXX. It seems a little dicey to me. If you wanted to take a couple shares on a speculative play, then by all means, go for it. But don't bet 10% of your your account value, or your NAV, net asset value, excuse me. So just be careful on that one. But yeah, this one, yes, the 50 is holding very nicely. I'll be straight with you on that, and I can see your conflict on whether to jump in this one or not. And I would be very conflicted as well. So if that's the case, then probably the answer is to hold and not do it. Just chill and wait. And if you get a pullback to the 90 or something like that, that might be the great time to get in. But yeah, after a move like this, it's really difficult to get in something like this. Okay, perfect. So yeah, question is, can I talk about the 90 moving average? Never seen someone use that before. This is leftovers from my day trading days. These were the indicators that I would use on my daily chart when I was day trading. And yeah, it is something that I found that has some statistical relevance. Now, Riz will, debate me on that. I've seen enough evidence to suggest that there is some use to it. Riz typically recommends the 100 moving average, the 100 exponential moving average, to be specific, for his daily charts. I've just stuck with it. It's one of those things that, old habits die hard, right, Anthony? So that is just something for me. Now, of course, I don't day trade anymore, so don't worry about that. But it is something that I keep on my charts and that I keep an eye on. Let me go back to the S&P 500 here. Yeah, it's one of those things where you say, oh, well, it hit here beautifully and bounced, so obviously it must be statistically relevant. Or, it traded around this one for a while and it didn't bounce, so maybe it's not relevant. For me, it's one of those things that I just keep on my charts because I'm used to seeing it there. And I feel as though there is some relevance to it. There is some buying and selling going on in that area. It feels like a supply zone to me, where you have a lot of orders triggering and things like that. So that's why I keep it on all my daily charts. It's just old habit, I suppose. All right, Adam has a question. It says, thoughts on LCID for a potential long? A bit more of a speculative play, in my opinion, especially with market conditions at the moment. All right, let's take a look at LCID. Lucid Group sounds exciting. Okay, another recent IPO. Looks like, or maybe it got relisted, something like that, under a different name, or it just went crazy. Perhaps somebody got into it. Yeah, it definitely feels like a bit more of a speculative play. It's definitely a buy the dip, hit the rebound type of play. That being said, this setup feels really rough to me. This it feels like it's slowing down. Volume has tailed off. Now I feel like there's something going on here because this amount of volume, there has to be a catalyst of some sort, especially when there's no earnings or dividend or anything like that. So there was a news story or something that broke here on the first. If you want, you can dig through it and figure out what it is. It looks like the rebound's already happened and we're starting to consolidate. Now, if we push through the moving averages, that's spectacular. You'll notice that the 90 is being respected here because that's just how these things do. But yeah, it's a little dicey because we are under all the moving averages at this point, and all of the moving averages are coming together. If you'll notice the way that they're trading and the way that they're moving, rather, they're all starting to kind of come to this one point, and that is going to be a huge resistance zone. There are going to be a lot of orders triggering when you get close to that, and more than likely it'll keep it below it without significant volume. Now, volume seems to be tailing off, like I mentioned earlier, down here represented by the vertical bars. Daily volume is definitely back now below average, which is about 20 million. Looks like on Friday we traded about 16 and a little extra. So definitely trading below volume right now. That can be very tricky to trade. It's typically more easy to trade things that have a lot of volume because they get in, kind of a flow, for lack of a better term. When you have lower volume like this, it can be a little tricky. So just keep an eye on it. I personally don't like it for a long, but that's just me. If you like this setup, go for it. Just understand that you may have to hold for some time. If those moving averages hold as resistance, could see a pretty solid rejection from that area. What time frame do you look at most for swing trades? Daily? 100%, Ryan, looking at the daily chart. That is what I always look at, swing trades, and honestly, even when I was day trading, I was looking at it. So yeah, 100% daily time frame. I know some people like the weekly time frames or the monthly time frames to get an idea of overall trend and things like that. And I think that's really good. Really good practice to get into is look at the longer time frames. But yeah, for me, I'm looking at the daily chart. And that is going to be my main tool when I'm deciding if I want to get on a swing trade. And then I'll use the shorter time frames to really hit my entry. And so that's really what your few minute charts, whether it be 5, 10, 15, 20 minute charts or anything longer, maybe even hourly charts. That is what you will use to pinpoint your entry. And then you'll just keep an eye on it from the daily chart. To give you an idea, one that Riz is holding and that I'm holding particularly is Corsair. I really wish Corsair could get their shit together. Oh, did I say that? Really wish they could punch over this 2950 area, but it has been holding very, very strong lately. It's been really frustrating. But you can tell positions that I'm in because I've marked the bejesus out of the charts, which is you're seeing right here. On Corsair Gaming, I'm actually using a Corsair mouse. I have a keyboard with them. They have all the RAM in my computer as well. So definitely like this company. I like what they offer. I really, their fundamentals are pretty solid, but yeah, having a hard time, since this initial push up, pull back and then really hard put here or hit rather. I believe this was Wall Street Bets getting in on this one again. And it was able to drive the price up, but it could not hold and it broke back down. So we'll see if we can start pushing towards the upside. It would be really nice because I'm getting kind of tired of holding this thing. But yeah, daily time frames is what we recommend for looking at swing trades for. And, when you're in a swing trade, guys, and this is what I've been doing lately, and I think this will be a great topic to discuss, and then we can kind of close and call it a night. When you're in a trade, I don't recommend looking at it every flipping day, okay? For a couple reasons. One, you're in Riz Elite. For all of you who are here live on the webinar, all of you are in Riz Elite, and you all get Riz updates. So, it's one of those things where you don't have to keep watching it all the time because you'll get kind of neurotic if you do. You get frustrated that it's not working out the way you want. you get twitchy. You'd be like, well, should I close it? Should I take the loss, or should I hold tight? Riz will tell you when he's getting in and getting out if he's in that specific security, and you have that heads up availability to you on the alert page here on Discord that we have for our private group. Highly recommend you keep an eye on that. You can honestly, if you want, you can. I don't recommend this, but what you can do is you can mute all the other channels and just keep an eye on one or two of our specific channels to keep yourself updated on your stock positions if you've gotten in on something. But yeah, it's one of those things that sometimes you have to hold through a lot of pain. Am I able to explain VIX? Yes, no one can explain VIX. Yeah, I can talk about it. So, did you guys ever watch Blades of Glory? It's an older comedy movie. It's about figure skating. It was about actually two male figure skaters. It was who was it? It was Will Ferrell and somebody else who I'm sure you're all typing it in the chat right now. And they made a joke on there, and they're talking about what song they were going to dance to on the Olympics, right? And Will Ferrell says we're gonna dance to one song and one song only, "Lady Humps" by the Black Eyed Peas. And his partner's like, I am not going to dance to any song with references to lady humps. And he's like, what does that even mean? And Will Ferrell says, no one knows what it means, but it's provocative. Same thing here with the VIX. No one knows what the volatility index is, but it's provocative. So volatility is how volatile is a representation of how volatile the market is, or honestly, a bit of, fear. You'll see when the market makes these huge moves towards the downside, the VIX goes crazy. When we have these big rollovers, the VIX just dumps, or excuse me, it goes up, opposite rather. When the market dumps, the VIX spikes. And so this is the volatility index. Again, this is not something that you really want to hold long term. You'll look here because it really doesn't do a whole lot. This is something that is used for short term, quick trades, things like that. It's not something you want to hold. It's volatility. It's fear, for lack of a better term. This is a representation of fear, in my opinion. And so, yeah, when the market dumps, this spikes. People get jumping in on VIX, which is why we had this huge move here on Friday on the VIX. Again, guys, this is an ETF that is not to be held long term. This is not something you want to hold on to. All right, Orlando wants me to take a look at AMT. Let's do that. American Tower Corporation. All right, so REITs are solid. Yeah. How's this dividend looking? $1.27. That's pretty solid. Earnings seem to be pretty decent. That being said, we are overextended here and we are coming back. This is not the time to jump in just yet, Orlando. I would be very careful on this one because we, kind of came down here to this support area and bounced off of it. That doesn't mean that it's not going to continue to sell off on Monday. I would wait for a better entry on this, especially since it's almost $300. And we did kind of push up here to 300, pushed over it and kind of came back down. So I would be a little cautious on this. This is quite the move since the Corona crash here and back in March of 21. So that's not it. Where is it? Should have been 2020. There it is. That's the Corona crash. So yeah, it's kind of came back up. It's been, honestly, this is mostly consolidation in this area. And then now we're starting to break out. It seems like a really risky entry, Orlando, right here. This is a huge speculative play if you take it here. I would say reduce share size if you do want to take it, but just be very, very careful. It feels like a trap to me. It feels like it's going to sell off more. That's what it looks like in my eyes. I think we'll have another pushback. Oh, you're holding a long option? Oh, shit. Oh, boy. What's your strike on that? $300. Ouch. Yeah. Yeah, I love the emoji there. That's an apropos emoji. This is one of those times, guys, when you take a call or a put, and obviously this time, taking a call. Whenever you take an options play, always be be completely okay with that option going completely to zero, because that is the risk that you take when you buy just a straight up call or a put. And I know that's where you're at right now, and I can only imagine how much that stings right now in your account. It's one of those things when you play options. This is something that can happen. You can just get the wrong direction. Is really what it comes down to. And I understand why you went with it. It looked like it was going to continue to push, but yeah, this is one of those tricky ones. Okay, that's good. That's good. I said Orlando said he went with small risk, so very well done on that one on managing your risk. That's incredibly important, especially when you're going with options. I have a buddy who's done very well for himself trading options, but he goes kind of a little crazy with the options. I'll be honest with you, and I have witnessed him blowing up account after account after account. So, guys, manage your risk. Don't be like my friend. Be more like Orlando. Manage your risk. So, if it does go to zero, you're not going to be crying, for lack of a better term. Toyota, don't recall. Okay, so just TM. All right, let's take a peek at TM here. So Toyota took a bit of a rollover. I'm not getting in on automakers right now, and the main reason being the chip shortage. I have heard, now this is anecdotal evidence, I don't have any specific evidence on this, that some car manufacturers are saying that they can't get chips, and so they're stopping productions at certain facilities. I don't know whether that's true or not. I have not dug into it. That being said, the chip shortage is real. It is something that automakers and a lot of people who are using semiconductors are having problems with right now. And so heard they have their own chip maker. Okay. Well, honestly, it looks like it's kind of trading with the market at this point. Really sold off pretty solid on Friday, so just like the market did. So I don't know about the status of Toyota's chip makers. Hopefully, it's not Dorito. Hopefully, that's not their chip maker. But yeah, it's a good question as far as that's concerned. But I do know that a lot of used car lots around here, you can't get a used car right now because everybody's bought them. There are hardly any microchips around, and it's becoming a problem as far as the car market is concerned. So, me personally, I wouldn't go with this one. If you want to use it for a kind of a quicker trade, you definitely could do that. It definitely likes to gap, especially since it's probably primarily traded on the Japanese stock market. But yeah, I don't know about this one. Like I said, this one likes to gap a lot. So just be aware when I'm talking about a gap, I'm talking about movement pre and post market, or after hours. That's the official term. Pre and post, guys. Keep it simple. So pre-market, post-market looks like it definitely likes to trade in that window. So just be aware of that when you take something like this, and understand you're going to have to hold through some junk in the morning because they like to do that sort of thing, and we have to deal with it, which means it can jump either direction. Even if Toyota has their own chip maker, the question is, can they get raw materials or not? And that's the big issue right now with the supply chain, with everything going on. From what I've heard, there are containers sitting on the dock that they don't have people to either unload or load it onto a truck and get it out there and going, which is a huge problem, which means that, materials are not making it to producers. And so even if you have your own factory that makes your own chips, if you can't get raw materials, it's still completely useless to you. So I would just be really careful if looking at automakers right now, until this chip shortage slows down. I would not be going in too heavy on things like Toyota, especially with how gappy it likes to behave. So, guys, we've been at this for almost an hour. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out. Great attendance tonight, guys. Great questions. Really appreciate all of your input and your participation, not only here on webinar, but in Discord as well. And of course, again, welcome to all of our brand new Riz Elite members. I do hope that you will stay with us, because I can promise you, you will get considerably more value out of it than what you're putting into it right now. I can say that from experience for myself and all of our other Riz Elite members who have stuck with this for so long. I can tell you, and I'm sure they can comment as well, most of them have paid for their membership every month with the trades that we're posting. So, Guys, keep at it, keep trading. Don't get shaken out by the market jumping around, and have a decent cash position so you're ready to go in case we do get that pullback, so you can capitalize on it and make some extra bank. Guys, thank you everybody for coming out. I really appreciate it. And as I always like to say at the end, we will see you in Discord on Monday.